Welcome to It's Time to Win with Empowernista. I am your host, Empowernista Raylan Hall, where we empower you to win wholeheartedly, win intentionally, and never give up. Too often, we find ourselves in a dead end job, in a career that we are unhappy with, a career that does not necessarily meet our personalities, a career that doesn't pay us enough. I've witnessed too many times people coming and complaining at work and just don't want to be there, and they're working because they have to. So I am excited to introduce you to our special guest, and we'll be going over the topic of winning in the right career. She is the founder of Breaking the Glass LLC, which is a career coaching service. She established her company after years of witnessing people limit their own careers and not reach their full potential. As a leader in the predominantly male information technology and product management profession, she experienced challenges moving up the career ladder. Kymberlee Page has learned quickly how to navigate in a variety of environments and climb up the career ladder. She wanted to share this knowledge with others so they can achieve their own personal success. Kymberlee has over 20 years of experience working in every aspect of the IT life cycle. She has worked in a variety of industries like education, financial services, and healthcare. She has experience working in a small startup companies as well as top Fortune 500 companies with over 100,000 employees. She holds a BA in business management from Xavier University, a master's degree in organizational leadership from the University of Phoenix, and she is a certified project manager, scrum master, and product manager. Kymberlee frequently speaks at conferences and sits on a variety of advisory boards or for different organizations. Welcome to the show, Kymberlee Page. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction.
You're so very welcome, and I know I kind of introduced you, but if you can, go ahead. I know I shared a lot about your company and some of your accomplishments as well. Is there anything that you would like to add about yourself?
Sure. I'd like to add a little bit of background about myself, too. So, it sounds like, okay, I had a very nice straight path in my career, but it wasn't. So when I was in college, I actually got pregnant with my first son. And so I learned quickly that I needed to have a better job in order for me and my child to make it in life. So I understand what it's like to not be able to have a straight path and to be able to look at yourself and say, despite what's on my plate or what's on my back, I can do more, I can do better, and allowing yourself to take those necessary steps to get to the level where you need to be.
I absolutely love that. You said was it your first year in college you had your first child?
My second year in college, I had my first son, and so I had to say, okay, I had a scholarship, so I was allowed to take a semester off and then come back. So I came back my junior year with a 3-month-old son, and I said, okay, let's do this. And so I had my first job after having a child. It was a part-time job, and it did not pay the bills. I was like, I need to do better than this. So that is when I started my own personal career quest of saying, okay, despite what I don't have my college degree yet. I need a full-time job, and I need one that's going to pay better. And so as I started getting new jobs and better jobs, I kept on saying, okay, what's next? This was great. Yeah, now I finally paid my bills, but what can I do better? And throughout my career, I've always looked at that and said, is this the highest that I want to go? Is this the level that's going to be most fulfilling for me? And that has helped me personally rise up the career ladder. not letting traditional stereotypes or issues or problems stop me along the path.
Oh, I absolutely love it. So having your first child caused you to start thinking about your income, also your future in going into finding a career that is bigger and better than the previous one, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Because I looked at it and I said, okay, I had, earlier than I had planned to, quote unquote, in my life. So I don't want you to feel the repercussions of that. That means I'm going to have to work harder, faster, smarter in order to get to the level that I needed to be when I had you.
I can definitely relate to that. I was going through my college, going through my bachelor's with 2 children. So I definitely relate to that, having children in college and still having to figure out, okay, how we're going to pay these bills, how we're going to get things going, and being able to work and juggle school at the same time. So I'm sure that was a big task for you to do at that time. So tell me also about a project or accomplishment that you consider to be the most significant in your career.
Well, I think there's 2. So after I said, okay, let me not limit myself, let me get a job and let's see what I can do. My first job with a Fortune 500 company, with a startup company, we had one of the largest retailers in the United States come to us and tell us, you guys need to sell a new product in X amount of time, or we're going to take our business somewhere else, and basically you guys are going to shut down. So that small challenge was laid upon my lap, and we were told, hey, we need to come up with a gift card to sell, and we had never done it before. And I looked and I was like, okay, let me work with some peers, and let me figure out how to make the unknown known, how to make the unforeseen seen, and for us to do this. And we were able to pull together and launch that gift card in 4 months, which is unheard of, especially in financial services. And in that first hour, we sold 1 million cards.
Wow.
And so that was one of the things where I was like, wow, if you really, really don't stop and say, well, no, that can't be done, it's impossible, and make it possible, that was, I think, eye-opener number 1 for me to say, yeah, anything can happen. You just need to just look at it and explore every option. The second thing I did was I was with one of the largest payroll providers in the country. And once again, they had been trying to work with government agencies and get things done faster. And they had tried just to broach the idea for the last 2.5 years, and it was never successful. And so, again, coming in saying, okay, what did we try? Let's do something different now. And had a different approach, a different philosophy, and was able to connect with these government agencies and save our clients $3 million within the first 2 days that this went off.
Oh, wow.
And so those accomplishments have kind of made me say, anything is possible. Do not let the word no stop you. Do not let the word it cannot be done or that phrase stop you.
I love it. So it sounds like through your experiences in these 2 companies, you were challenged both times to do something different, do something that was never done before, and to actually show yourself that, okay, I can do this along with my team, and we can accomplish this thing, even though it sounds like it's something that may not work, but it did to get the results that you got. That's amazing.
Absolutely. And it's all about really kind of honing in on what did I try, what did I work well, and what do I need to tweak along the way.
Okay. What did I try, what worked well, and what do you need to tweak along the way? I love that. I hope the listeners are listening. I hope you guys are listening to this. She's going to give you guys some good tips in your career, and I'm already, my ears are open and ready to listen as well. It sounds like you had pretty amazing experiences with these two companies, but has the road to success always been easy? What would you say were your biggest challenges?
Being looked at as an equal in every situation, in every environment. So unfortunately, some people do not necessarily value a woman or an African American woman and see me as their counterpart or see me as their peer. And that has been challenging because some things that I might say are dismissed, something that might be repeated by a male peer that I just literally said it out of my mouth can be repeated by them, and they'll get accolades and like, oh, that's such a wonderful idea. And so it's been very challenging really kind of marketing myself throughout my career. As women, we've often been told your work will show for itself. And so that mantra means like, okay, well, I've been doing such a good job. They'll see, they'll recognize, and they'll reward me for the things that I'm doing. And that's not always the case. And so I learned early in my career that you actually have to be a self-promoter first. I have to promote the work I do. And it's not being arrogant, but it's also not allowing someone else to take credit for the things that you're doing. So I've learned that I have to have my 5-minute elevator pitch. So and when the CEO of the company comes along, you talk with them. You don't say, oh, my gosh, there's the CEO, or, there's one of the presidents. I can't talk to them. Absolutely not. I actually go over, I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Kymberlee Page. You might have heard about some of the stuff that we've been doing. Nice to meet you. Have a 5-minute pitch. And then make sure you're giving yourself accolades for the work that you're doing and your team accolades for the work that you're doing. And when you do get dismissed in those meetings or those rooms, you actually have the courage to go outside of that session and go and say, hey, by the way, in that last meeting, I had said X, Y, and Z and kind of dismissed it. Let's talk about that. And that starts changing the culture of like, okay, I'm not going to be able to dismiss her. I'm not going to be able to take what she said for granted. It just changes the culture. But it's on you to set boundaries of how people are going to treat you and make sure that you respect yourself enough to keep those boundaries intact.
So I love it. So what I'm hearing is that you are basically saying, speak up for yourself. Don't just sit back in the shadows, in the corners, and just allow things to happen. But you need to be present and also promote yourself and speak on your behalf. That way you are noticed. Get yourself noticed. But did you ever have times where you spoke up and maybe there was pushback or people looked at you differently, or they wanted to kind of still try to dismiss what you were saying? Because I know a lot of times in the workplace, even as, when you mentioned as a woman and an African-American woman, you experience those challenges. But speaking up, did you feel like you had pushback or challenges with that as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. I still got pushback, but the more I would, again, speak up. So I mentioned before where you're in a meeting and I will say something and no one will recognize what I said, and then my counterpart will say something. Well, in the early part of my career, I would just sit back and talk with them afterwards. If that continued to happen, one of the things I started to do was actually raise my hand in that session like, hey, so-and-so just mentioned an idea that I did. Let's talk about that for a second. Before we move on with the next topic, let's stop and let's just address this situation, because I want to make sure I'm hearing what he has to say in this discussion as well as what I have to say in this discussion before we move forward.
So
that takes a lot of courage, but in order to, again, set those boundaries, you have to stand up for yourself.
So there's no room for fear when it's time to promote yourself. No room for fear when you want your voice to be heard. You have to have courage, and you have to be willing to just keep pushing past it. That's what and so when you have done those, are there any things that anything that you can share with us that has that you've accomplished out of speaking up and voicing your opinion throughout meetings or throughout times in your workplace?
Yes, because several of the ideas or opinions that I've had that would have been ignored were recognized. So those two examples of where we were able to do something without nothing, things that haven't been accomplished before, those were times where I had to speak up for myself several times in those meetings and those sessions in order to get people to respond. And then once I did, and then we were successful, it was a very different story. They're like, you know what? Let's listen, because she was able to be successful for this. So then your work can actually start to support the voice that you're speaking.
So then you became the person that they can call on instead, and you didn't have to work as hard to try to tell them what you're capable of doing because they've already seen the results.
Exactly.
That is really good. So I want to commend you for that. And how did someone teach you this, or did you just learn it on your own while you're in the workplace?
When I started my management career, I started at a young age. So I became a director of application services when I was 25. And so since I was very young, people were intimidated by my age, my sex, my race. So it was very difficult in settings to do that. So I started attending women's conferences, and those women's conferences, they talked about the difference between being aggressive, assertive, passive-aggressive, or just passive. And they said, women, for you to be successful, especially in leadership positions, you really need to be assertive, and this is what assertive looks like. And here's the difference between being perceived as aggressive versus being assertive and standing on your own 2 feet and getting the respect that you deserve.
Oh, I absolutely love it. I see a lot of women conferences that go on nowadays, and I love to either put on women's conferences or be a part of them, because I do feel like there's valuable information taught to the women, and it's important for us to, as we go to these conferences, we meet new people and network, it's important for us to take away information from there and use it in our day-to-day life. So you were able to take away some skills and experiences from the other women at the conferences and use it in your day-to-day life. So it shows that the conferences that you went to really worked out for you well.
Yes, they did. They were invaluable.
Good. And so let's get more into your company and what it is that you do after the break. So let's take a brief break, and we'll come back and you'll share some more about what it is that Kymberlee Page does with her company, Breaking the Glass LLC. Talk to you after the break. You don't have to allow societal norms to dictate your level of success. There is no limit to success. Success depends on how hard you're willing to work for it. Your pathway to success may mean that you will have to push past fear, speak up, make a plan, and follow your plan. See it through. You cannot be lazy when it comes to you and your success. You cannot be afraid when it comes to you and your success. You gotta just break through those walls and do what you gotta do to reach the level of success that you would like. It's time to win in your success. Welcome back to It's Time to Win with Empowernista, where we empower you to win wholeheartedly, win intentionally, and never give up. We have Kymberlee Page with us today. Welcome back, Kymberlee Page.
Thank you very much.
You're so very welcome. So before the break, we learned a little bit about Kymberlee and what she has done in her early career, and she has shared some tips on promoting yourself in your career, speaking up and not allowing being a woman and also an African American woman hold her back from moving up the ladder. And she shared on being assertive and having courage to go and talk to the top leaders in her company, the CEO and the managers and the leaders, and not waiting for people to approach her. She took the initiative and the first step to do just that. Is that correct, Kim?
Yes, that's correct.
Good. So tell us, we really want to learn more about what Breaking the Glass LLC does. I know you mentioned that you are the CEO of this company. When did it start? And tell us more about your company.
Sure. So back in November of 2017, I was approached by previous coworkers that I had worked with like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And they asked me, they're like, hey, Kim, you've helped me grow my career while we were at X, Y, and Z. Can you give me some advice again? And so after being approached by like the third person, I was like, wow, do you guys really find my advice this valuable to seek me out after all these years? And I'm like, yes, I do. Because you've helped me grow my career. When I was afraid to step out on a limb, you guided me. When you saw me struggling in a certain position, you're like, hey, don't limit yourself. Reach out to this position because your personality, your education, your skills would be a better fit. So I took a step back and someone was like, why aren't you doing this professionally? If people are seeking you out year after year and they've seen you break through the glass ceiling, they want that same help and coaching to get them to the next level. That's a gift, and you should share that gift with people. And I thought about that, and I thought about, then I went and I looked at the the statistics of how many women have met and raised and reached those leadership positions in companies. And it's not a lot. And it's very astonishing. And that glass ceiling really does exist for women and men. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a step back and do something to help people break through their personal glass ceilings and get to the level that they didn't think was achievable. So I founded a company. I named it Breaking the Glass LLC so people can know that, hey, this is for you to break past your personal glass so we can take your career to that next level.
I love it. So it took for your coworkers or people that were close to you to push to basically, as they kept coming to you for more information on or more tips, it took other people to tell you, why aren't you making this a career? So that's what helped you jump your career. So what steps did you take to, did you get started right away, or what did you do when you decided, okay, I'm going to take this on as a career?
Yeah, that's a great question, because first I was like, okay, I've helped people passively in the past, but, what are some steps that I can do consistently? So I reached out to some friends, some family, even alumni from Xavier, and I said, hey, guys, I'm going to be trying out this new company. I need some people to go through this process with me, some people to see if the steps that I'm creating and the process that I'm creating is actually going to be beneficial for you and help you make it to that next level. And so I had several people sign up and say, yes, take me through it. And so as we were going through that process, and I started working on it and refining it and saying, hey, here's how I've instructed people before. I've helped one of my friends who had she had been a stay-at-home mom for the last 8 years, and she was like, I can't even get my toe through the door to get her first job. After I've helped some people who've been in their careers for the last 15 years and felt stuck, launch a brand new career into a whole different industry that they never thought they could. I've helped someone who thought the only way that she could rise was to be unhappy in her career because she thought there was no other options for her to do different things and to earn that paycheck that she thought she deserved without having to live in uncertainty and fear and not be successful and not be happy. And so after I helped about 5 or 6 people, I was like, okay, yes, there is some method to this. These are the steps that I'm going to take. And yeah, I've actually now seen this work with different people. So let me put this into practice.
Oh, I love it. So you kind of had a test group, and you took them through the process so you can see that what you're doing actually works. So I think that is great. Great that you did that instead of just kind of going out there and then, people paying money for something and then you're testing those people and they're not sure what's going to happen. So it sounds like you got good results, especially hearing that, having a stay-at-home mom who has been home for 8 years and she doesn't have the resume that most other women had who are working constantly. So it's good to hear that you were able to help her push through the door to actually get that going. What are some of the steps that you did? Because I know we may have some stay-at-home moms that are listening right now. What are some of the steps or tips that you would give a mom that's been home for many years? And what are steps would you give her as to building her resume and to getting into the workforce again?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when I talked with her, I was just like, hey, aren't you part of like your parent council at school? And you've been doing that for the last 4 years. So she was the vice president of the Parent Teacher Association, the PTA, which that in itself, everyone should be paid to be in the PTA.
Yes.
So she was doing that. I was just like, you are managing stuff, doing all of the financial services and the transactions for this group. You are doing a lot of communication between this group and the teachers and this group and all of these different vendors. Just because you're not getting paid for it does not mean that this is not valuable experience that you are learning and earning. Mm-hmm. And so we actually put this stuff on her resume as well of like, hey, nonprofit PTA work that I've been doing and showing all of those things. And that was the tipping point. That change in how she reflected herself was, okay, you haven't necessarily received a paycheck, but we see that you have still been working and doing this stuff. And her first job actually was in education.
Wow. Look at that. That's good. And so you taught her how to how to put the skills or the experiences that she had while she was staying at home on her resume. And I think that's good because a lot of moms, stay-at-home moms, don't realize it takes a lot to be at home. I had times when I was a stay-at-home mom, and I felt like I worked harder at home than I did in the workplace. It's a lot of things that you have to balance and get through the day-to-day. It's just learning how to transfer those skills and put them on your resume because those skills are valuable. What a mom does is valuable in the workplace as well.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. And this is where I see people discredit themselves. I was just like, do you understand how important this work that you're doing is? So how much money did you raise for the PTA in the last 3 years? And she's like, yeah, almost $50,000. I'm like, that itself is amazing.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And for you to discredit yourself and say, well, it was just the PTA or it was just this, that's one of the things that I tell my clients immediately. Please don't say it's just. What you've done in your careers with your skills to get to the place where you are has been very important and very valuable. And if you don't credit and see value, others won't see credit and value in it.
Yes. So I have another question for you. How important is it to match our careers with our personality, our experiences, our education? How important is that?
I think it's important for you to make sure it's a factor. So one of I would call them the guinea pigs, she was a very introverted person. So very smart, very talented, had skills up the wazoo, but it would take a lot for her emotionally to be in the public all the time and be in that public face and always be answering questions and publicly communicating and speaking up on behalf of others. That drained her. But she was in a position that required that day in and day out. And so I kind of sat back with her and said, hey, do you feel stressed when you have to go and publicly speak? And she was like, absolutely. And I'm like, do you feel very worried when you have to speak on behalf of others? And she was like, yeah, it kills me. I have trouble sleeping the night before. I dread it up until the moment. And then after, I questioned, did I do it the right way? Did I speak up for them the right way? And so I asked her, I was like, well, why are you in this position then? Why are you putting yourself through this agony every single day when there's other jobs that are just as important as the one that you have, that have the same pay or actually better pay? Why aren't you recognizing and valuing yourself enough to say, I don't have to do this. This is not my only option. And when I had that conversation, it was like a light bulb went off. And she was like, oh, wow, I didn't recognize that. What are some other job options that are available? And then we took a step back and looked, like, hey, based on your personality type, your career, the things that you like, here are some other viable jobs available to you right now. And she was like, what? And was able to kind of pivot in her career and move into this other position, and she's loving it, absolutely loving it.
Wow. So what tips do you give someone when they're trying to find the right match in a career for themselves?
So one of the things that I do when someone first starts out is saying, let's define your personal career path. So I give them a personality assessment. Let's figure out what your personality type is. Let's understand what environments that you thrive in. So do you like more of a team-based environment versus an individual environment? Do you like to be, are you invigorated by a startup company, or do you like a more traditional company that's been around for a long time? Really kind of understanding motivating factors for someone. And then once I understand what those motivating factors are, what their personality type is, then we say, okay, let's talk about some options that you have on the table that you might not have realized are geared more for your skills, your personality, and your motivators. And then we start going through that list. And then once someone says, okay, you know what, I like these 5, then I always hear, but there's none available for me. That's where Kim steps in and says, there's always some options. And so I actually go and show them actual live viable jobs based on the results of defining that path. And then they say, okay, I like job X, and you show me what the career salary range is. You show me some jobs that are available within my zip code, within the distance that you said was comfortable for me. All right, how do I get them to recognize me and get my foot in the door? And that's where we look at your resume, your public profile, your cover letters, and we start to tweak it and make sure that call out how you shine and how you're going to be the best fit for that position. And then once people do that and they start getting an interview, we go through mock interviews. And I actually go through the process and get them comfortable with answering questions and getting comfortable with presenting themselves in a way that promotes all of the excellence that they've done that they might have been too shy to do in the past. We get them comfortable doing that. So when they go through that interview, the next call I typically get was, oh my gosh, I got it. Or I just made it to the second round. I'm so excited. And that brings me so much joy because it really helps them get to that level that they didn't think was possible, but I always knew was possible for them.
Wow. It sounds like you really do a thorough job in helping them and helping your clients get matched up to the right career. You go through all these different steps and personality assessments and what are their likes and their dislikes and then also going through what their experience is and their education and helping them work it through in their resumes and giving them a list. So it sounds like you're doing a really thorough job in helping your clients get to the careers that they've always wanted and didn't know that were available to them.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the past have just said, oh, your education, your skills, you should do X, Y, and Z, without saying, well, who are you? What motivates you? When you get up in the morning, what is going to be the thing that you look forward to doing the most? They take the people factor out of it. I'm putting the people factor back in. Like, hey, you are a person first and foremost. You have desires. You have passions. You have things that you love and things that you don't like. Let's use that as one of the pivotal points to make these decisions moving forward.
Oh, I absolutely love it because I see that many times we go to college or maybe we didn't go to college, whatever the case may be, because, people can still not go to college and still get a great career. But we get our skills together and we go and we look at when we go to look at job boards and we look at the pay rate or how much it gets paid, and then we make a decision based on the pay scale, and we're like, okay, I have some skills that fit this, but I would really love that pay. A lot of times we're pay driven, but we don't realize how much that's going to interfere or clash with our personalities at the same time. So what's the point of being in a great pay if you're not happy with that great pay, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's where I think, again, it's very short-sighted. Just because this job pays well doesn't mean that another job that you can be happy and satisfied in doesn't pay well either. And being able to kind of show people safely, like, hey, so you picked 5 careers that you never thought were going to be good for you, but based on everything that you've said, now let's look at the pay. And when you start looking at the pay for those, people are like, I didn't realize that job paid more than what I was doing before. I never explored that. I've always only looked in these sections or this little box. And so we limit ourselves so much, and we've just been taught, and it's reinforced day in, day out. Oh, you went to school for economics, so you can only do these 3 jobs. And people are like, well, I'm stuck to these 3 jobs because that's what I got my bachelor's in. Or I did go to college, and therefore I can only work this. This is my only avenue. I can only, do retail. No, you don't. That's not your only option. So really getting people to kind of understand there are no limits unless you set a limit upon yourself.
Yeah, so let's stop right there, and we're going to go for a break. And when we come back from the break, I want to get a little bit more into just learning about because we have so many people who are unhappy in their careers, and we want to dive into that a little bit more after the break. Okay. As we discuss being in the right career and making the right career choices for our lives, it's also important to discuss the underlying fear that we have, just not knowing how we're going to make ends meet sometimes. And I want to speak to those who may be experiencing that or staying in a career because you're not sure of what to do. God says in Philippians 4:19, and my God will supply every need of yours according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus. So just know that God will supply your needs. So if you need to make a change in your career or go into business for yourself, do so. It's time to win. Welcome back to It's Time to Win with Empowernista, where we win wholeheartedly, win intentionally, and never give up. We're back with Kymberlee Page from Breaking the Glass, LLC. Welcome back, Kymberlee.
Thank you.
So before the break, we discussed ways on matching our personalities, our experience, and education in getting the best career that's for us, and also to try to prevent being trapped in a career that we find stressful, that we find not meeting up to our needs. So share with me, if you can, have you ever experienced being in a career that you were just truly unhappy in?
Yes, I actually personally have. So as I've gone up the career ladder, there's been some jobs where day 2, I was like, this was the wrong choice for me. Uh-oh.
Okay.
I thought this was going to be a win, and it's not a win. And so recognizing and acknowledging that this is not going to be something that I'm going to be happy in, and saying, okay, what's going to be my next steps? So I fully understand when someone's just like, well, if I move too quickly within my job, it looks bad on my resume. You know what? There are talking points around that, and there are ways to get around that. So I was able to, again, not let fear stop me and move on quickly to the next spot that I was actually happier in and more successful in. And so when I'm working with clients, the first thing I ask them is, when at the end of the day, how do you feel? And if the words are like unhappy, tired, thank God I got out of there, I know, hey, there's something going on. Let's dive a little bit deeper. Or on Fridays, on Fridays, how do you feel? And if they're like relieved, relaxed, that I don't have to think about this place, I don't have to worry about work. And then the most important question, the most telling question, on Sunday night, do you feel anxious and nervous thinking about going to work the next day? And if they're like, yes, I do, okay, we have a problem. We have some unhappiness that you might not have even recognized. If you're unhappy every Sunday night and you start dreading to go to work, there is an issue, and you don't have to be unhappy. You do not have to dread going into work. And let's recognize where you are, and now let's take a step back and say, what do I need to do differently so Sunday night is a happy night just like Friday night is? What do I have to change from a job perspective that's going to allow me to do that and allow me to think like that? And that's where we need to start.
And then move us through that. So say you have a client in front of you. They're saying, Kymberlee, you know what, I really feel trapped in my current career. I'm very unhappy, but at the same time, I need my paycheck because I'm living paycheck to paycheck. So I constantly drag myself out of the house because I need to pay my bills. And I know there's many people out there who are experiencing this. They are unhappy. They are probably going to work and they're complaining day in and day out, but they stay and they keep going because they need that paycheck. What do you say to this person, and how do you help them find themselves again and get into something that is better for them? And also, it's just, I know there's a lot that goes into it, but just briefly share with us what you can.
Sure, no problem. I mean, that's a very realistic situation and a conversation that I have frequently. Well, yeah, I'm unhappy, but I need to get paid. So my question back to them is, what if you could be happy and get paid at the same time? And what if you could get paid more than what you're doing right now? Then they're like, oh, okay, my ears are open. Let's talk. What do I need to do? And as we're doing this career journey, it doesn't mean that you have to quit your job, but it does mean that we have to start saying, I'm not going to tolerate this much longer, and I am actively doing something differently so I do not have this be my reality forever. And so we start saying, let's say someone's like, you know what, I can't keep on doing this. Let's start putting a time frame. So how quickly do you want to turn it around? Are you saying, hey, in the next 30 days, you want to have a different job? Or in the next 60 days or 90 days, you want to do something? Depending on how urgent the need is, because I have people who have no jobs, and they are very urgent to find something. We can aggressively attack this process, or we can take our time through this process and help you along the way. And so I tailor my coaching to the need of the client. If someone's like, I have no income except for this unemployment check, and Kim, that doesn't rub together, help me now. Let's go. Let's go. Let's hit this aggressively. Let's start doing this. And sometimes I meet with clients, especially like that, 3 or 4 times in a week period or a 2-week period. There's other clients who are just like, okay, yes, I see that there's some options. I'm not too unhappy, but I do want to grow my career. And we might meet once every 3 months or every 2 months. So it just really depends on the client's needs. But I also remind them, there are other options. You are not limited or trapped into this one position with this one paycheck. Let's start opening your horizons.
Okay, I love it because I see it day in and day out, and I always try to tell people, there's so many jobs out there. There's so many careers. It's a lot of diversity, and why be unhappy in one place? It makes no sense. And I think a lot of times people they stay there, they're unhappy, and they've been there for X amount of months or years and they just feel like they don't know if they're going to get something else, or they're not even sure if the next job would be better for them. So it's like you kind of, when you're unhappy, but you get settled in a place, at least you know you're familiar with it, you know what you're going to get out of it. What do you say to that person who's just afraid to move on to something else because they're fearful that either that next career may be worse than the one that they're in, or it's just not going to work out for them? Or what do you say to that person who has that fear of moving on to the next thing?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I talked to them about their comfort zone, and I was like, you've built your comfort zone around this unhappiness, and we need to take your comfort zone from unhappy to happy. And let's talk about these fear things, and let's do something to address them. So let's say I'm afraid that I'm just going to end up in another job in the same type of environment. When we talk about the interview process and when we talk about looking at job recs, we need to do something differently. So like I've shown clients literally in job recs where they say, I've had a client who says, you know what, this job just burned me out. So as we're looking at different job recs for positions, the job recs are very telling if we're looking for the right things. So this one job rec was just like, yes, person needs to be very aggressive. They need to juggle multiple hats. They need to be able to work weekends. And she's like, oh, that seems like a good job. I'm like, all right, let's stop. Stop right here. Let's talk about things that are uncomfortable and are making you unhappy in your current position. Those are the same things that are also starting to be called out in the job rec for this job. Mm-hmm. Why are you interested in this? And we'll see how we are going to something that's going to cause future unhappiness. Now let's look at a different job rec for a different company that talks about, work-life balance and a healthy we have a gym here that we want you to exercise in. We have all of these different things. And I'm like, let's compare these two jobs, and let's talk about which is going to be the best fit for you.
What came to my mind when you're going through that was relationships, dating, how sometimes you see people, they go from one relationship because they were unhappy, but then they go into another one, and it's the same exact situation. So what came to my mind was relationships and dating, because you got to kind of like date. Well, you have to have a relationship with your job, your career, the place where you're going, because there's people in there. You have to be able to relate to them. You have to be able to maneuver through your day from day in and day out with these same people. So it's kind of similar to finding the right relationship.
And a job is a relationship. It's a relationship that you spend most of your day doing and being with. And so you have to look at those job recs of like, hey, what's motivating you and interesting you in these positions? And then in the interview, I always ask my clients, tell me the questions that you ask in the interview. And 9 out of 10 times they're like, well, I really don't have any questions. Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to change that. We got some questions that we need to ask in these interviews. And so just starting to give people a way to counter that fear and to show, hey, you can make good, healthy decisions by gathering more information and seeing how that information applies personally to you.
Yes. Asking questions at the end of an interview is important, because you went through a whole 15, 20, 45 minutes of an interview, and then the last question that they have for you is, do you have any questions for us? And you're sitting there, oh, no, I'm good. And they're looking at you like, oh, really, are you not? It kind of shows off that you're not that interested in the company, because you need to be able to ask questions so you can see if they're also a fit for you. I at one point when I was doing my internship for my master's in social work, I had to sit and help interview people, and I got to see it from the other side. It's important as we go into interviews to see if the job is a match for us. A lot of times we go in and we're thinking, oh, I hope they pick me. Please pick me. Please pick me. But they never think about, do you want to pick them? If you go into the interview with your mindset, I need to know if they're a good fit for me. That means you're able to have the advantage, and you're going in and you're asking them questions at the end to find out if they are a match for you. A lot of times we do it wrong because we go in and we want to just have them pick us. But that is, you don't realize you're starting a relationship with this company, or you're going to give however many months or years to this company. You need to really, truly know if this is a match for you. Are they going to be beneficial to your life? Are they going to be an addition to your life? Or are they going to add on to the years in your life? Or are they just going to take away and deplete you? So it's so important for us to go into interviews being able to put our best foot forward, show them what we can offer them. And then also, I'm sure you know a lot about negotiating what it is that you want from them instead of just taking what they're showing you and this is what you get. Know how to negotiate your way through it, and this is what I want if you hire me, because I am the person that you need in your company to make that difference or the thing that you've been looking for in your company. Every company has something that they want to do, or something new that they want to get into. Maybe you have that skill or that thing to get them to the next level that they're looking to reach. So it's important to be able to get in there and show that you are the one for them, but also negotiate your way and say, this is how much I'll take if you get me.
Yes, exactly. And teaching those negotiation skills. And when you start to value yourself and realize this is not the only option, this is not the only fish in the sea, it changes your perception and it changes the whole game for you. And that's what I love to see with my clients. They start to recognize they have much more power in this game than they ever thought they did before, and they can make the best decisions for them.
I love it. So as part of my show, I also love to provide either a scripture or a favorite quote to our listeners that'll help encourage them to continue to push through and not give up in this game of life. So do you have a favorite scripture or a quote that you can share with our listeners that will help them get through their things, their unhappy times?
I have this actually posted in my house. It's Matthew 17, verse 20. He replied, because you have so little faith, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you.
Oh, that is one of my favorite scriptures, because I think a lot of us, we allow fear to jump in, and we don't have that. God says just a little bit of faith. All you need is small as a mustard seed. You go in there, this is what I want, and you would notice that, as you say, as you say to this mountain, move, and it shall move. When you go and you want this job, it goes back to the job that you want. You can actually say, this is a job that I want, and I have faith that I shall get it, and it shall be yours. So
absolutely,
that is so good. I love it. So, and how can our listeners get in touch with you, Kymberlee? Do you have a website, a social media outlet? Share some information on how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So, yes, we have all that and above. So you can reach me at my website, and that website is breakingtheglass.info. So no www, just HTTPS, breakingtheglass.info. And there you can explore. We have some webinars on there. We have a bunch of articles and different things that you can do. Even some practice interviews you can actually go through and see what it looks like, and it really tells about our whole entire program. So that's https://breakingtheglass.info. We're also on Facebook. So if you want to follow us on Facebook, our Facebook page is Breaking the Glass LLC. And so if you look that up, you can find us. And if you want to do the hashtag, it's at Breaking the Glass 2. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. So Breaking the Glass 2 at Instagram and Twitter, you can find us. So there are a variety of different ways to get in touch with us and to kind of follow and start working on your personal career.
Absolutely love it. So breakingtheglass.info, and you'll have webinars there as well. And you, they can also find you on Facebook and social media. So absolutely love it. It was a pleasure speaking with you on today, Kymberlee, and I pray that our listeners were able to gather some tools and information that they can utilize in finding the right career for them as well. Do you have any last words or last things that you want to say?
Yes, believe in yourself first and foremost, and you can do anything that you apply yourself to.
Yes. Visit IamEmpowernista.com to inquire about being a special guest on our show. Thank you so much to our listeners for tuning in today. May you be empowered to win wholeheartedly, win intentionally, and never give up.